In this video, follow along as we continue to disassemble this Singer 201. Today we're going to remove the tension assembly and the slide plate, the needle plate and feed dogs, and the hook assembly. Let's get started. Okay, so we are going to start with removing the tension assembly, and hopefully it's not going to give us any trouble. So for our tension assembly, I like to remove it piece by piece. And the first thing I want to do is take off this little thumb screw here. This is what allows us to control our tension, lower numbers, less tension on the thread, higher numbers, more tension on the thread. So in order to get this thumb screw moving, you're going to want to press the numbered portion of the dial in and kind of use one finger to hold it in and then use your other hand to twist it off. And the reason why you have to press it in is because if you look on the back of this little piece, there's a pin right here. That pin fits into any one of these holes on this numbered indicator on the tension assembly. So you take off this piece, and then you just slide the indicator, the numbered indicator for the tension, and then you have this little fingered washer that should come off, the beehive spring, and then the indicator itself, plus minus, that tells you when you're twisting the dial. To the right is more tension, to the left, less tension. Then carefully, if you want, you can kind of grab all these pieces together. You have the take-up spring, this take-up spring thread guard, some tension disc. Just give them a pull. Now, do you see, oh, there we go. There was a little bit of resistance on that spring, so you don't want to just keep pulling. Just kind of wiggle and pull so you don't stretch out the take-up spring. We're going to slide it all off of this stud, and now I can show you the take-up spring. So take-up spring, beehive spring, the take-up spring thread guard, which is this piece right here, and two tension disc. Set those down. Now before we can take out the tension stud, we need to take off this part. Now, for anyone who's curious, this is called the slack thread tension guide. But there's a little screw right here, and we should be able to just loosen that hopefully fairly easily. I believe she's turning. Screw for that. And then this will just slide right off. Now we can take out this stud. On this model, the screw for this tension stud is right back here. So I am going to flip it up on the nose. I want to make sure I get good downward pressure on the screw. So right down in here, and I'm definitely putting some penetrating oil there. And it's nice because we have so much space here for our screwdrivers on a 201. I'm gonna see if my Chapman can get this one for me. The smaller Chapman bits definitely are gonna break easier than the bigger ones, but make sure that's nice and seated in there. Downward pressure. I am going to take this all the way out. It's another set screw, and it's fairly long because it's going all the way from here up against this stud. There we go. Now, grab your stud. This one, it's just going to pull out, no issues at all. If you cannot get this out, drop penetrating oil down in this hole and let it sit for a little bit. Then what you can do is screw the thumb nut back on the end like this. This one's a little stretched out. So when these get spread open a little bit too much, it'll make it hard to get that thumb nut on and off. If they're pinched together, too close together, you'll have trouble with your tension then too. So there's just like a perfect, that's backwards, amount of space that should be in between those two little points. But essentially what I'm trying to show you is if this is slightly screwed on, do you see? We kind of have a faux screw head here now that you can get a screwdriver in right like that and twist it. And as long as you just have it flush with this thumb nut, you shouldn't worry about spreading that open farther than it should go. So sometimes that will help you get it turning, and then it might just come out, or you may have to really work with it and pull and turn, but you can get them out. Some are a little bit more difficult than others, and this one thankfully was not. So once you get the stud out, you should be able to shake the tension pin right out. So what do we have? We have the slack thread tension guide, or slack thread and tension guide, and screw, tension stud, pin, set screw, the take-up spring, thread guard, 2 tension disc, beehive spring, take-up spring, this little washer, it's called the tension indicator flange washer, and then our little indicator, the numbered dial, and finally this little thumb screw that goes on the end. So that's all the tension. Put all of them in a bag together. Just a heads up, if you get ahead of me on this series and you start cleaning parts, do not clean these with anything other than a Q-tip, maybe a little bit of polishing compound like the Zymol cleaner wax. Don't put these in parts cleaners or anything like that. You will wash this black paint right off, and that will be a sad day. So just don't do it. But put them all together. Now she can be flipped back over again. Now we're going to remove the needle plate before we remove this little slide plate, because this gets in the way, or I'm sorry, this gets in the way of this when you're trying to remove it. So this is a great time to use a little ratcheting screwdriver from Chapman. But if you don't have that, this little mini ratcheting screwdriver that's from Craftsman, and let's see, is there a part number on here? CMHT68008. I have a link to these in the description box below. You can find them on Amazon. Mini bits fit inside these, so very, very handy. And then it's got a nice little lever for whichever way you're trying to turn the screw. I really, really love them because very little clearance right here. So we're gonna take the 2 screws out on the needle plate. So when I first started restoring machines and putting videos on YouTube, finally, Bob Fowler found me, and this was actually one of the very first of quite a few different tools that Bob so kindly sent me. But anyway, love it. Never had to buy another one. I just have one and I use it all the time. And my hands are in your way, I know. There we go. If you slide this out a little bit, you can get your finger in and pop off your needle plate. So we have the needle plate and the 2 screws. Now we can also see the screws for the feed dogs themselves. So general maintenance for a machine, if you're just following along and you're like, wow, I'm not gonna do all of that. When you are just maintaining your machine, taking that needle plate off and getting in here and cleaning the lint out of the feed dogs is super important, because this one isn't that bad. This whole machine has been surprisingly nice so far, which kind of scares me. But anyway, at least take the needle plate off every once in a while and get any lint that's built up out of here. That does make a difference, I promise you. So, and you don't have to worry, you're not changing any adjustments, any settings. You're not hurting anything. Again, with the little mini ratcheting screwdriver, I'm just getting to these 2 screws back here. Downward pressure. These can be a little more stuck. And the heads of these screws, there's several screws on these machines that I feel like are easier to strip. The metal content, whatever it was, just is softer. So 1 and 2. See if I can get that the rest of the way. Yep, 2nd screw, and there's our feed dogs, our linty little feed dogs. Okay, there we go. Okay, so now we can remove the slide plate, and I was thinking this is the one where you kind of rock it like this and pull it this way. I was wrong. Don't do that. This one just pulls off this way. I'm not sure if this was something that was different on the 201s depending on their year. So if it's not sliding this way, definitely try the rocking, sliding forward to pull it off. But that's how this one came off. And this is what the bottom side looks like. So maybe check that out too. If yours looks just like this, then you can take it off the way I did. Now, because I'm going to clean this, I am also removing these 2 screws, and I'm taking off this little part right here that holds it on. So really quick, I'm going to do that. Very good. And that just comes off like that. And that's because I want to put these in an ultrasonic cleaner. Water could get trapped in between here, and I don't want rust to be an issue later. So now I can bag up the slide plate, the 2 screws that hold on this little spring that keeps it on the slide, needle plate, 2 screws, feed dogs, 2 screws. They're all different, not going to get mixed up. Okay, so now we can remove the hook. And I just want to say, if you don't want to do this part, don't do it. But if you look at this machine, this is so dirty. I can get in here and clean with Q-tips to a certain point, but I'm not going to be able to get all of it out, and I want to get all of it out. So what I'm going to do, again with my little ratcheting screwdriver, is I'm going to remove this bobbin case retaining clip right here first, and that's just these 2 little screws. One and 2. There we go, 2 screws. And this just comes right out. Now, oh, that's tempting, isn't it? I am going to disassemble this all the way. That means that this is going to all go in its own bag by itself. Because of the way I'm going to clean these parts, I'm going to put them in a ultrasonic cleaner. Like I've said before, I don't want water getting in here and getting trapped. So if you're just going to wipe this down with Q-tips, you don't need to worry about taking these 2 screws out. I am going to do that though. We'll see if I can do it here so I don't have to move the machine. There we go. These were not very tight at all. And this is another reason, again, why do we work on a towel? Because these are tiny, tiny screws, and the only way you might ever find them is by stepping on them. So 1 little screw, I believe they're the same, so I don't need to worry about mixing them up. 2. Okay, so we have this little part here on the retaining bracket. It's kind of like a little spring or something, and 2 of these little screws, and all of that's going together. So the bracket, the 2 screws that held it down, and then this little part here, and the 2 teeny tiny little screws, they're all going in their own bag. Now, for the rest of this hook assembly here, we want to get the bobbin case out. This is the bobbin case. Now, if you need to adjust tension, you actually are working with this screw right here that bumps out a little bit. And if you can find a way to get your screwdriver in there without taking off a bunch of stuff, just to turn this screw and adjust your bobbin case tension, that's the screw you would be adjusting. I'm going to take it out, and there's this little retaining clip in here. And if you look, you see the hook point here? The hook point is pointing at the clip that you want to loosen first, okay? That's this little part right here. And if you have a small screwdriver, you should be able to just kind of work it into this little opening and give it a twist, and it should release like that. Did you see that? So once we have that clip pulled back, you should be able to just get your screwdriver in there. This will kind of like push forward a little bit, and then it spins it out and you can lift it out. And so here is our little retaining ring. We can take it out and look. That's a little bit fiddly, and in hindsight, probably would have been a lot better to leave the retaining clip on, because that's holding this whole bobbin case still, and I would have had a little more resistance. I was holding the hand wheel to hold the hook still. So anyway, probably did that backwards. But now I can just lift out the bobbin case, and you can see it's pretty gunky. I want to clean this and polish it. And yes, I am removing these 2 screws, this little spring right here for the same reason. I don't want water getting trapped back in here the way I'm going to clean it, but also threading gunk gets trapped back through here and the thread goes behind this spring for the bobbin. So that's how we get our tension. And if it's really, really gunky, you're going to have issues. So I'm going to take this apart and just removing these two. They're different. I don't have to worry about mixing them up. Also, don't stab yourself because sometimes they can be a little stuck. So just turning the first one. You probably can't even see what I'm doing. There we go. Don't lose it. Second one. It's not too bad. Take it out. There goes the spring too. And let's look at the spring. It's not too bad. I'll still polish that up. And then here, this will all get nice and clean and polished so the thread just slides really smooth. Now I'm also going to take this off, this little finger here, and this screw is still different than the other screws, so I can keep all these parts together. And there she goes. Just don't lose them. There we go. And that's a longer screw, see? And then that pops off. So all of that will get cleaned. Let's bag that up. Bobbin case, little finger on the bobbin case for positioning, the screw that holds that finger on, retaining ring, spring for the bobbin case, and 2 tiny screws. So what is left? So the last screw that I want to remove is this one right here. It's what holds the rest of the hook assembly in. Here's the hook. You don't have to do this, but if you don't, at least take a little time to clean all of this out, because do you think that is going to help anything at all? Probably not. So again, Chapman's to the rescue. Now you can use the whole Chapman, which is what I'm going to do, or you can just use the ratcheting part, but there is a bit in that kit that works in this screw. And what I'm going to do is make sure it is down in there, but I'm going to also have to hold the hand wheel at the same time to get this screw loose. Just holding the hand wheel still because the hook wants to spin. These should not be that hard to get out. This is where we drop oil when we're oiling the hook. So here is the screw for that. And then this should just lift right off. You may have to wiggle it a little bit. There we go. So here is the hook. Pretty gross. So yes, I am going to take this all the way apart. Do you have to? No, you do not, but I am going to, and these will go in a bag all together because the little tiny screws, I don't want to mix them up with other little tiny screws that I've removed from this area. Look at this down in here. Wow, that is pretty disgusting, but we're going to clean it up. So take these little screws out if you so desire. 1, 2. These little clips just pull away. And then we have this sort of like spring here, 2 screws. That's the last of the screws. So many screwdrivers. This little set my son got me for Christmas one year. I would say he knows me pretty well. And the bits are magnetic, I think, which is nice when the little tiny screws are coming into play. Pretty nice because they will hang on to them for the most part. This one was a little bit tough to get out. There's 1. And let's see if we can do the other one. Just be careful because this little hook is sharp. 2. Okay, so this now I'm comfortable cleaning this way. So we have the hook, this little, it's almost like a spring, and the 2 screws for that. Then we have the retaining clips, their 2 screws, and the screw that held the hook assembly down. Get those in a safe place as soon as possible. So the hook assembly is out. Look at that. And look at all the cleaning that we're going to get to do later. Isn't that just amazing? Yuck. Okay, so we are coming along. In the next video, we are going to go ahead and take a look at the bottom end, the underside of the machine. I'd like to try to get the feed regulator out. So that's kind of where we'll be focusing, get the hand wheel off. I always leave it on at least up until this point because it just makes it easier. You know, we were holding on to that hand wheel when we were removing some of these parts, so it makes more sense. So that's what you can expect in the next video. Thank you so much for following along. I wish you all well, and I hope your restoration is going along smoothly, and I will see you again really soon. Bye.